Welcome and hello everyone to another episode and interview of Coaching Conversations with Bukky. And I have another guest who's going to be sharing their experiences about the coaching they've received and the coaching programs they've been involved with within their school. So hi, Janetta. Janetta, lovely to see you here today. So for members of the audience who are not familiar with who you are or what you do, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience, please, and share what role you undertake?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Hurst. Currently, I work as a head of music in a large East London secondary school. I've been a head of music for 16 years. Tucked in there were a few years working as a senior leader as well. I've worked in a range of school settings, from multi-academy trust to local authority, independent school. And I really have a passion for teaching and learning, development of other staff. So when I was working as a senior leader, my role was staff development.
Fantastic. Great role to have, actually. Thank you. So I'll start with the first question. Why should educators receive coaching?
So I think that coaching is an amazing developmental tool. I can start with myself. I've been coached for many years at different stages of my career, and probably the most, not the only notable, I've had an amazing external coach outside of my school setting who I've gone back to several times over the course of my leadership journey. But probably the most notable experience that really challenged me was when I was participating in teaching leaders. And I was part of the 2014 cohort. And I had a leadership coach who was a drama specialist, which was really unusual, brilliant, because he had a similar specialism to mine. He understood practical subjects, but also he was a former head teacher. And I was working on a journey from middle leadership to senior leadership. So what was fantastic about that coaching relationship was that initially it was something we had to work at. He challenged me. He held me to account. He never let me off the hook. Teaching leaders, there are a lot of different points along the journey that you have to check in and check that you're meeting your goals. So one thing that he always did was if I said I was going to do something, he always wanted to see the evidence that I had met that goal and I had achieved it. And then at that stage we could move on. And if I hadn't done something, he would ask me to delve into and dig into what was preventing me from meeting that goal and making that progress. He was an excellent coach. And in terms of why all educators should receive coaching, I think that often we think of coaching as something that should be delivered to newly qualified teachers or trainees or people that are at a deficit in some way, shape or form. And actually it's something that's for everyone. Everybody, no matter the stage of your career, everyone can benefit from coaching.
Thank you so much. And that's an extensive response. I love the fact that you said with your coach, he obviously, like, as you said, to have someone with a drama background is rare, but he understood the context in which you're working with in. But I love the phrase, or how you said about the fact that he held you to account. So when you said you're going to do something and didn't do it, he helped you unpick why, so that you were more successful in that, which is really great. Thank you so much. Now, I know that you've in some of the schools you've actually worked in, they've actually set up coaching programs. Can you explain and share with us why was a coaching program set up in one of the particular schools that you've worked in?
Right, yeah. So in the multi-academy trust that I worked in, we had always had a culture of coaching in the school. And I was involved in that along the journey over the years as I was developing myself. And that was largely for, at that time, as I say, newly qualified teachers or trainee teachers, and also those who had specific areas that had been identified for development. When the new principal came, joined the school, his vision was to have whole school coaching for any and everybody. And so both models work really, really well. Within the multi-academy trust is also a real rich culture of coaching, of instructional leadership coaching. And so we set up together a program of coaching for all teachers to be involved in. And that really was for, as I say, NQTs at the time, ECTs to come, and trainees. They had a dedicated bespoke program of
Right.
instructional coaching, but
Hmm.
this program worked alongside that for all teachers at all stages. And the nice thing was about that model that was that really it wasn't about line management. We were really, really careful not to set it up as coaching only to work between a line manager and who they're managing. So it
Hmm.
was a range of members of staff, those who we hoped would want to be involved and those who offered up their services as a coach,
Hmm.
to work with a range of people from across departments. So we had cross-department coaching, cross-specialism coaching, maybe people who were just really great in one area of their practice, be that planning, be that delivery of a certain technique, be that whatever it was,
Hmm.
know, working with somebody in the school who might have that area identified as an area for development. And the other thing that I would just say about that model was that one of the things that we did was to review it really regularly. So we would review those coaching partners, those coaching pairs, either every half term or even just as the need arose.
Yeah.
Um, I think the coaching partnership, the pairing or the trio, however it's set up in your setting,
Hmm.
is really, really important to get right. As I mentioned, my coach on teaching leaders, we had to work at that coaching relationship initially. I
Okay.
think it's really, really important to ensure that you get those pairings right as far as possible.
So when you say in relation to your own coach, Janetta, you had to work at the relationship. What do you mean by that?
I just think that um, it was just. I think the coaching relationship is one that where there is understanding and mutual respect
Mhm.
um, and kind of it's a very close relationship that you build if you're having coaching regularly,
Yeah.
um, and I think all of the pieces of the puzzle were there because it was a set framework. So we
Mm,
would have set time frames within which we should meet. But it
okay.
just wasn't somebody who was in my school. It wasn't somebody who I knew. It wasn't someone who I had a previous working relationship with.
I understand.
Actually, it's about building trust.
Yes.
And goodness, I'd recommend him for anyone. Um, I would recommend him as a coach. He was a very skilled practitioner. He knew his stuff. But
Hmm.
I think initially it's that trust element. And so I think when you're building up coaching pairings or trios and you're setting those up,
Hmm.
I think it's really important to think about those characters, those individuals, and whether people have any sort of relationship with one another beforehand.
Right.
And I think when I was running the coaching program, there were definitely times when people expressed they didn't necessarily want to be coached by somebody. And I think as the person running that, you've got to be willing to listen
Hmm.
uh, if you want to get the best out of that coaching program.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for also, elaborating on the point about the fact within the coaching program, you had different people working across different strands with different strengths who are helping each other. And I think that really builds it, in terms of the collaborative aspects of it, but also highlighting that we can all learn from each other with regard to
Right.
that. Now, with regards to the coaching program you mentioned, Jen, was coaching defined in any particular way?
So I think that for me, I don't know about it being defined in any particular way. I will say that we used an instructional model. I wouldn't personally say that that is the most authentic style of coaching because it's very directive.
Okay.
So I studied coaching for my dissertation for my MA. So I did do you know, a medium scale study, we should probably call it. It wasn't small scale because it was across different regions in the country, and it incorporated a number of schools and academies and a number of different teachers and coaching leads and all sorts of things like that. Um, it wasn't small scale per se, medium scale, but um, I think in that sort of remit of researching it, it allowed me to understand authentic coaching and different models, the grow model, all these different types of models that
Mm,
exist.
yeah.
The instructional model is very directive. There's a lot of
Mm,
iterative practice. There's regular. We had a model where it was kind of a weekly basis. Um, So I would say that for me, the main thing that underpins coaching is that it's a developmental tool for self-reflection. And
Mhm.
again, the instructional model, you are encouraged to reflect, of course you are, but
Yeah.
there's also that element of we want you to work on this element of your
It's more
practice.
directed. That sounds more like mentoring. Sorry to cut across you, but
Yes,
that sounds more like mentoring if you're being
exactly.
guided. Yes.
Exactly. Whereas coaching as a whole is linked back to Egan's skilled helper model,
Mhm.
and it's about helping people to, as I say, self-reflect and to carry a coachee through a process,
Mhm.
which you still do in an instructional model. But I would just say the main difference is that instructional would be quite directive,
Yeah.
with clear action steps that you're going to go back
Mhm.
and uh, you're going to practice those action steps throughout the week, and you're going to revisit and look at the progress that's been made. Whereas other forms of coaching, you may come up with your action step yourself, as opposed to being given a suggested action step.
Okay. Thank you so much. What were the benefits of the program that you explained? So you mentioned, like a whole variety of staff members at different levels that actually engage with it. Were there any benefits that you identified from that particular method of coaching?
For the model that we had, and for my own coaching as well, I think self-reflection is the biggest takeaway. The biggest benefit of coaching is the opportunity, certainly for myself, I've learned
Mhm.
to find the answers to questions for myself. I like to go and ask somebody, a trusted person, what do you think about A, B, or C? That is that's my style of working. Right? That's my style of being. I like to be developed. Whereas coaching it is being developed, but it's probably more learning to find those solutions to problems for yourself.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah,
And the ownership lies with the coachee.
right, exactly. And
Mhm.
also, I would say, as much as learning for yourself, as I say, that relationship between coach and coachee is really important, and therefore the opportunity just to sit down and spend time with somebody who's probably been there before, not necessarily, they may not have experienced exactly what it is you're wanting to tackle in the coaching, but
Mhm.
often they've been down a similar path or they've had similar experiences, and it's just nice to have a discussion. It's nice to hear from other people. It's nice to have a chit chat. I've said that before in relation to coaching when I've been talking to somebody about it. It's nice to talk.
Yeah. But so long as that talk has specific actions, that's the hallmark of coaching. Otherwise, as you say, it's a chit chat, which may or may not actually enable you to lead to, get to develop the particular goals you're looking for.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, Jen, thank you so much. Last question. Now, if there is someone who's looking to set up a similar type of coaching program within their college or school setting, what advice would you give them?
The most important thing that came out of the research that I did for my MA, give people time for coaching.
Mm,
And this is something that we did do when we set up the whole school coaching model. You need to allow for the coach and the coachee to sit down and discuss. You need to allow time for those lesson observations. If that's a part of your coaching model, it's not going to
mhm,
be an observation isn't necessary, or a lesson visit, a learning walk, whatever you want to call it. It's not necessary in all models of coaching, but in a teaching and learning context, we used to go out and visit lessons. There needs to be time allocated on timetables for that. There needs to be time allocated for the discussion to happen. And importantly, give enough time between the sessions. We were going, we were going for it 10 to the dozen. It was weekly coaching. We had a weekly coaches meeting as well, where we got to meet and share our practice and talk about how that was going. That was met with different responses. Some people loved that. Some people really didn't like that. They felt that it
mm,
was a bind on their time having
okay.
to meet every week as a coach, as a group of coaches, should I say. But, you don't get things perfect the first time around. You work and you refine and you develop a model. But what I would say is there benefit in allowing space between a session, between two coaching sessions? Definitely. It doesn't necessarily have to be weekly. Give it 2 weeks, even longer if necessary. It's going to be different for every need, for every
Mm,
type of teacher at a different stage of their career. And every school setting is going to be different, but give time. The second thing of three that I would say, I've mentioned it already, think really, really carefully about your coaching trios or your coaching pairs.
yeah.
That relationship is vital. And if there's a breakdown between those two individuals, it's just not going to work. So make sure you get that right, and encourage the coachee to practice. So iterative practice between sessions, whether that's practicing a teaching technique or practicing that difficult discussion. Maybe they're going to look in the mirror and practice that difficult conversation. I don't know what it would be, but allowing time for practice is really important. Or just if it's not something that is going to be if it's not something that's going to be delivered, say in a classroom setting, get somebody to script out a conversation, get somebody to script out their thinking, to map out their thinking. But that space to practice between sessions is really important.
Okay. Jen, thank you so much for sharing your insights and experiences. And it's great to hear about, the coaching program that's actually been able to operate on a whole school basis within a multi-academy trust as well. Thank you to everyone who's actually joined today. I hope that you actually join us for a next time and next conversation when we look at further coaching conversations with Bukky. Take care, everyone. Bye. Bye, Jen.
Thank you.